How wonderful to enjoy cooler temperatures and slightly shorter days. But sometimes we don't think about that in terms of a garden. Today we're here in Franklin at Red Thread Farm, and it is a plethora of wonderful fall and winter produce that's available here, but also available for you to grow at your own garden. My new best friend, Jeremy Tolley, is going to tell us about carrots because, Jeremy, I've tried and failed miserably at growing carrots. Help.
I hear that often. The trick for growing carrots is to get them to germinate.
Yeah, I had the worst problem.
Yeah. They're not picky about what temperature they germinate in. They can germinate in warm weather, which you need to do in order to get them to grow like this in the fall to get the size, but you have to keep them moist. Were you growing in a raised bed?
Yes.
Yes. Raised beds tend to dry out much faster, so the trick is to keep them wet. Much wetter than you normally would until you get those little seeds to come out of the ground. My recommendation for you, cover it with the sheet, weight the sheet down, and keep the sheet wet. That will keep the soil moist underneath it. As soon as they start to germinate, take the sheet off, and you'll have a perfect bed of carrots.
Because they're such tiny, tiny seeds, and I just broadcast them and lightly covered them, but I didn't give them enough cover, is what you're saying.
Right, exactly.
Okay, all right, so you've obviously have perfected this. Tell us what kinds of carrots you've got here that are growing that I'm dying to see.
Let me show you a couple of different kinds. So when we think about carrots from the grocery store, obviously everybody immediately thinks about orange.
Correct.
So here we're going to have some oranges mixed in. This is an orange carrot. This is a mix called rainbow. So here's one that's yellow, right?
Yes.
And then we have them in here that are white. See, this is more of a white color carrot. If we wash this, these would be brilliant colors, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not too far off from orange. They're delightful, they're great. You get some color with those, but this is the carrot I really want to show you. This is a variety called Dragon.
Dragon.
And Dragon is aptly named for this beautiful orange color. It's about
purple.
Purple. It's almost red. It's almost the color of my shirt. You see that? And on the inside.
Oh, that's
Isn't that brilliant? Yeah.
It doesn't match. It doesn't make, I keep thinking the inside will be like the outside.
Yeah. But this is a really fun carrot to grow. It's no more difficult than any other carrot than an orange carrot. You just have to make sure you find a quality place for the seeds, and highly recommend Dragon.
Okay, and then I'm gonna say when you get these, because you got the tops obviously with them.
Right.
And when you get them home, or after you've harvested them from your successful planting, what do you do with these tops? Because they pull moisture from the root, don't they?
They do. So the vast majority of people, we cut them off and when we give them to our customers, most people don't want the tops. But carrot tops make a wonderful pesto. Did you know that?
No.
Yes. Try carrot top pesto. But like you said, if you're not going to make a pesto with them or eat the greens, then cut them off. You can even break them off here. It's probably the best way to do that. Got it. And then store this carrot in your refrigerator.
Because it, again, is pulling moisture from the root. All it knows is to keep itself alive.
It does, it does. The plant continues to live, continues to feed those leaves from the energy that's stored in the root. So you do want to take them off.
Perfect. For carrot success, do you need a particular kind of soil for these varieties?
You don't want compacted soil. You do want a soil that is nice and loose and that you can stick your hand in, or you can put a fork in and it goes down in there, that's not overly rocky. So you do want to make sure you have a well-prepared bed for that. Raised beds are excellent in that regard. Well,
I noticed when you dug them that they almost pull out immediately. So that's because of the nice loose soil.
That's right. And you'll find if you have soil that's compacted below that top layer, you'll end up with carrots that are crooked or broken or stunted because they can't go down into the soil.
Got it. Carrots aren't the only roots you grow. What else have you got here?
So radishes, I think, are maybe one of the most undervalued fall crops that there are. Winter radishes in particular. They are frost hardy. They do great in the cold weather, and they're really versatile. So when we think about radishes, we think about radishes that you cook or that you eat raw in salads, but not ones that you cook. So this is a daikon. Look at that.
Oh my.
Much different than the little round red ones, right?
Very different, yes.
So daikons are a an Asian variety of radish. And certainly you can eat them raw. They have a nice spice to them, but they're also great prepared and cooked. I've even seen recipes for daikon French fries. They can be used as a coleslaw substitute, grated over a salad. So this is a really nice, very versatile radish to have.
So do you grow these just the way you would grow what we would call an ordinary radish?
You can.
What's the difference?
Sure, they take much longer. They take about twice the amount of growing time. So you want to plant these in August, about mid-August in our area here in Middle Tennessee. They take about 50 to 60 days to mature. These have been here about 75 days. Another great thing about these radishes is that they hold well in the garden. And they store well in the soil, but you can also then store them in your refrigerator if you have a root cellar, and you can keep these throughout the winter.
So if you get busy with other things and don't have time to completely harvest all of these, they'll be just fine. Mother Nature will take care of them in the ground.
They will be okay in the ground until it gets really cold and the ground starts to freeze and the soil starts to heave. You want to get them out of the ground before then, and then just take them into a root cellar. You can take these tops off, and these will store for weeks, if not months, in your refrigerator.
And I'm assuming that just like other root vegetables, you don't wash that before you store it. You just wipe it off.
I do.
You wash it off?
I do, yeah. Just because we have a lot of soil on here, I want to get that off. I think you could do it either way. We have success in washing them and storing them clean.
Got it. And so this is what's the variety of this one called?
It's called Mishiyaga.
Mishiyaga. And does it have the same peppery taste?
It does, yeah. It has a really nice peppery taste. Although the top is a little bit green, you'll find that this root is white through and through.
Got it. So that's a big radish.
It's a very large radish.
But it's also fun to use.
It is fun and tasty.
I love it. Jeremy, this seems like a much smaller variety than the daikon that we just saw. What have we got here?
It is. This is a pleasant surprise. These are called watermelon radishes. So watermelon radishes are also winter radish. They take about the same length of maturity as the daikons do. And they look pretty ordinary, right?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't think much about that, but then look what's inside.
Oh, that's beautiful.
See why they're called watermelon radishes. So these have a very similar spiciness, kind of a kick to it, but they're beautiful if you use a mandolin and slice them on deviled eggs, put them in your salad. They can also, any of these winter radishes can be pickled. You can make kimchi with them. And this certainly is probably one of the prettiest things that we grow.
That's gorgeous. And again, this is as easy for a home gardener to grow as it is for you to grow?
Very easy. You want to make sure you get your spacing correct, about 6 inches in spacing with these. Whereas smaller radishes, you plant them really close together. These, because they have such large tops, you want to make sure you give them plenty of space to grow in the garden. And they also, like the daikons, these are going to store very well if you take the tops off and keep them in your refrigerator or put them in your root cellar.
Perfect. I'm sold. Gardening can be a lot of trouble, Jeremy. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about things that are a little more maintenance free. What do you have in mind?
I think one of the most rewarding crops to grow in the fall is lettuce.
Lettuce.
We often think about lettuce in the spring and the summertime, but not so much in the fall, but that's when it's at its peak. That's when it is the most vibrant. That's when it tastes the best. It's sweeter when the temperatures start to drop and the temperatures are cooler. And I think it actually is, it'll last longer too in the garden.
So as far as a home gardener goes, lettuce, is that worth their effort and their time? Because how much trouble is it for them to grow lettuce?
It absolutely is. I think sometimes people get started with their gardens in late spring. They plant lettuce. They become disappointed because lettuce doesn't perform well when the temperatures get hot and those day lengths start to get longer. But it does wonderfully well in the fall, and I think people would be much happier with it in the fall. We just don't think about that.
No, we don't.
And it does well in a pot. It does well in a container, as well as it does in the soil or a raised bed, particularly as the starts to get colder. If you cover it and protect it, even just on those coldest nights, lettuce is remarkably cold tolerant as well.
We don't think about that. We think about it as really tender.
That's right. We think about it as a summer crop because that's when we like to eat it.
Yeah. Kale used to be the must-have on your table. Now, not so much. Why?
It was the it vegetable for a while. Well, kale was really popular because of its nutrition, its nutrient value. And we would get this kale in the grocery store and we would take it home and we knew that it was really good for us, but it didn't taste good.
No,
right?
it didn't.
It was bitter. It was often wilted by the time you got it home. Kale that you grow in the fall in your own garden or from getting it from a local farmer is going to taste nothing like what you get at the grocery store.
And I even see a difference, even though this is familiar looking kale. I even see a difference between this kale and what you would find at the grocery store. This looks fresher and greener.
Yes, and it's soft.
Healthier.
It's soft.
Yes, it's very soft. It's almost like silk.
Right. This particular variety is called dwarf Scotch kale. So this is the classic one that we would typically see in a garden store. And we just have, you don't want to over fertilize your soil. It does like some nutrients, but you just want to have a nice loamy soil to grow in, whether that's a regular garden or a raised bed or even a pot. You can grow a really nice kale. Get proper spacing on it, 6 to 10 inches of spacing between plants. And the key is to pinch these leaves off regularly. So you'll see here, we've continued to break these leaves off. At the end of the winter season, this will be a very tall stem with like a palm tree almost, with the leaves at the top. So this will continue to produce all throughout the fall season. Varieties that are cold hardy like this Scotch kale will grow even in the winter. You might get some frost damage, and if you do, just pull those leaves off and tender growth will start from the top.
So, Jeremy, you're pulling the leaves off that you want to use from the bottom.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So these are ready to harvest, these larger leaves here.
I see. And then, obviously, this is fun to do lots of stuff with, but next door, you've got something that's also kale, but it looks so different than this.
Yeah.
What have we got?
There are a lot of beautiful varieties of kale. We grow about 5 here. This particular one is called, it's a Russian kale. So there's a red Russian kale. This is a white Russian kale based on the stem that's here.
Oh.
It's not quite as cold hardy as the Scotch kale we were looking at. But if I showed you this as a cook, what would you think about this?
I would think that that's going to be tough and hard and woody and stemmy.
Yeah, you would think so. This is super tender. So when you go to the grocery store and you buy baby kale, we're often doing that because we want that softness in a salad, but it doesn't have much flavor, right?
Right.
This has all the flavor and all the tenderness. You just have to cut it. So a quick way to do that is to roll these leaves up. And
like you would basil.
Like you would basil or something, and then julienne these, and then it makes a really nice, soft, tender salad.
And do you grow this similar to how you grow this, spacing and...
Exactly the same growth habit, exactly the same harvest habit. You can see how we've been taking the leaves off the bottom. As the plant continues to grow, we'll continue to harvest those leaves.
Got it. So you're making me fall in love with kale again, Jeremy.
I would love for you to take some of this home with you and put some feta or some goat cheese with it, some pine nuts, and a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and you'll love it.
I'm headed home. What would a garden be without herbs?
Lonely.
And I can see that you've made sure that this parsley has plenty of company.
It does, yes. So we have collard greens growing here. Herbs are a great thing to sneak in your fall garden. Again, like many vegetables, we think about herbs as being a summer crop. And certainly you can grow these in the spring and the summer, but herbs like parsley, dill, cilantro, and chives, they're really at their peak in the cooler seasons, particularly in fall. So here we've just interplanted some parsley with these collard greens. So as we pick the leaves of the collard greens, it gives plenty of space for the parsley to grow, and they're great companion plants.
And you know, mine always bolts, and I lose it early. So this is a much safer environment, and it looks deliciously healthy. And I need it more in the winter than I do in the summer because I need to add some green to my menus.
Right. It's bolting because it's responding to the heat and the increasing day length. So it'll be very slow to bolt in the fall.
Perfect. I love interspacing. That's beautiful. And I love herbs in any time of year.
We do too.
So, Jeremy, thank you so much for letting us come
Thank you for coming out
and visiting with you at this beautiful farm. It has been a pleasure, and I feel privileged to be here.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. If you like gardening, you'll want to subscribe to our channel. Home gardening tips, tips from growers, and lots of plants. Until next time.